I'm Shirley Pearce, and I started the charity Understanding Dementia to bridge the gap between dementia awareness and a real understanding of the condition. Once we understand how it affects not just the brain, body and behaviour, but the person inside, we can learn skills to lessen its impact on them. Scientists are still learning about dementia and searching for a cure, and most of us worry about getting it. But once we understand it better, we can make a real difference to those who are living with it now. So caring for someone at home or in a care home can become a more positive experience all round. People with dementia and their carers know what they want. Less stress, more independence, more time at home with their family, their partner, or on their own, and if or when they need residential care, for that move to go more smoothly with less difficult behaviour, and by that I mean behaviour that's difficult to understand and cope with, and that usually means they're having a difficult time, and less medication. And they want more well-being. Well, of course. But what do we mean by well-being? What I mean is being well in our mind, and for that we need 4 basic feelings. Self-esteem, the feeling that it's okay to be me. Agency or autonomy, a sense of choice and control. Social confidence, that's feeling comfortable around other people. And a sense of hope, the feeling that things will turn out okay. Together, these 4 elements support our well-being, but like pillars, if one collapses, that puts more strain on the others and can lead to breakdown. This applies to all of us, whether we're well or unwell, with any physical, mental or cognitive impairment. In most types of dementia, the storage of new facts in the person's memory system gets more and more patchy, while the feelings that went with those missing facts go on being stored as normal. Once we understand that, other aspects of dementia start to make more sense. For comparison, let's look at normal memory. All the time we're awake, our brains are recording and storing new memories. This goes on unnoticed in the background while we're getting on with our lives. Each individual memory includes the facts of what happened and our feelings about it. Each person's memory system just records their own experiences, no one else's. Let's look at an example. This couple are sharing a day out, but it's different for each of them. He's having the time of his life, but she's not. These memories are stored for future reference. The most recent ones are normally the easiest to recall and the most useful. They tell us where we are, how we got here, and why we came. We can refer back to earlier memories, but it's the most recent facts that explain why we feel like this right now. Without this constant supply of facts, we wouldn't know what's been going on to make us feel the way we do. When these two look back on their day out, they each recall the facts that make sense of their feelings. She feels let down after he promised it would be such fun, and she might feel a bit queasy when she recalls those waves. Once we find facts to fit our feelings, those feelings start to make sense and we can work out what to do about them. She might decide to stay at home next time. So a normal memory can store the facts along with the feelings and generally recall recent events more easily than earlier ones. As we get older, our memory system continues storing the facts and the feelings of what we experience in just the same way. But other things can let us down. If we don't see or hear so well these days, our most recent memories will have less detail than older ones. and you can't retrieve information that hasn't been stored. So let's see what difference that makes. This lady is watching TV with the sound turned up so she can hear it better, and she doesn't hear the phone ring. Later on, her daughter tries to remind her about it, but she hasn't forgotten. She didn't hear it ring, so it wasn't stored as a memory. So there's no point in saying, "Don't you remember? You were watching that cookery programme." That won't help if she didn't hear it. For her, it's just as if it didn't happen. You can't retrieve information that wasn't stored, it's just not there. But even stored memories can take longer to retrieve as we get older. Sometimes they can take so long that by the time we find the one we want, like the name of that film, it's too late to be of any use because the conversation's moved on. So it gets harder to keep up. Seeing that actor on TV reminded her of the film he was in. The title was also stored in her memory, but that took longer to retrieve. That's not dementia, that's just normal aging. So even normal aging brings memory changes. Facts and feelings are still being stored. Recent events are generally the easiest to recall, but memories often take longer to retrieve, and recent ones may have less detail. This is normal, but dementia is not part of normal aging. It's an extra challenge. Then there's stress. Normally, paying attention to information helps us take it in at the time and recall it later. But anxiety, pain or distress can affect both those processes. Stress makes it hard to concentrate and can affect memory storage, as with this man's memory of giving the bag to his daughter to hold while he was trying to buy the right train tickets and get the machine to accept his card. Even if that was stored at the time, his worries now about catching the train, or even missing it, make it harder to recall what he did with the bag back then. The thought of losing something that was in it might make things worse. And stress can do this, however young you are, however much revision you did before your exam, and however hard you try to recall it when you're in there. So stress can affect memory by reducing the ability to store information and or retrieve it. And for some family carers, the stress of caring for a relative with dementia can make it feel as if they're somehow catching it too. But once the well-being of the person they're caring for improves, that reduces the carer's stress, so their memory can begin to recover. But for those who have dementia, stress adds to their problems. Most people living with dementia are aware that things aren't making sense like they used to, and getting anxious or upset can make that worse. So to recap, we've looked at aging and stress, but dementia affects memory differently again. Once we see what that does, we can then learn new skills to support the person living with it. Most types of dementia start with a new kind of memory being stored. The feelings of what just happened are saved, but without the facts to explain them. The first such gap is just a brief moment without its facts. Tiny gaps are easy to bridge and no one notices. As time goes on, these gaps happen more often, and then longer gaps appear. So it gets harder for the person to work out what's missing. In advanced dementia, the most recent memories will be mostly feelings with hardly any new facts being stored. And you can't retrieve anything that wasn't stored, it's just not there. So for the person with dementia, it's just as if it didn't happen. Meanwhile, their feelings continue being stored as well as ever. That's the key difference in dementia. We all need to find facts to fit our feelings. But in dementia, the most recent memories will have the most gaps where the facts should be, so they're not much use. The best memories, with their facts intact, were stored when the person's memory system worked best. That is, before their dementia even started. But people using such old facts to try and make sense of their feelings now may appear to be living in the past. However, if we try to correct them, that will just show up their mistakes and make them feel worse. So dementia can threaten well-being, all aspects of it. Our response to any mistakes can affect the person's self-esteem. Then we start taking over and making decisions for them, reducing their sense of choice and control. And there's the embarrassment of getting things wrong in front of others. It can all seem hopeless, so it's no surprise that depression is such a common symptom of dementia. However, it doesn't have to be like this. If we think of it as a disease and try to fight the dementia, we can find ourselves fighting with the person. But thinking of it as a disability can make it easier to work with the person and their dementia in a far more positive way. They're already doing the best they can to make sense of their feelings. It may be impossible for them to adapt to our reality, our facts. But we can learn to adapt to theirs and respond to their feelings using a simple ABC of skills to start. First, we can avoid asking questions. But why does that matter? It matters because questions can be far more challenging than we realise. Whenever someone asks us a question, like, "Would you like some coffee?" we find the answer by asking ourselves more questions. Even without an elaborate barista menu, that question can multiply. How long is it since I last had a cup? Or if I'm away from home, will I have to pay for it? Have I got enough money on me? And especially as we get older, do I know where the loo is? But in dementia, with more and more gaps where the facts are missing, it's harder still. Even the question itself may slip away, leaving an uneasy feeling that we're waiting for an answer to something. How embarrassing! We can still offer choice, but we can make that choice easier by rephrasing our question as a statement. They can agree or disagree as they prefer, but there's no pressure on them like there is with a question. And that's the point. This is not about doing without questions just for the sake of it, or reducing choice. It's about reducing the pressure on the person with dementia. Then it's easier for them to make a choice, because a simple statement can save them an anxious search for facts that may not be there. Some questions are pointless. If Uncle Sidney's anxious to please, he may well give us the answer he thinks we want, even if it's not the one we need, and the cat may know different. So we may have to find the answer for ourselves another way. Note this also applies to questions like, "Did you have supper?" and "Have you taken your medication?" Doing without questions is a skill, and our courses have tips to help you. Next, we can be a buddy. Dementia can make someone feel isolated, even among family and friends, because so often they just talk to each other. Here, the lady on the left is struggling to follow the conversation, but if the other two ignore her, she may feel abandoned. In order to feel not just included, but that she belongs, she needs a buddy who'll side with her whatever anyone else says. This is harder to do with other people around, but then it may be even more important. And again, we teach skills that can help. And we can cut out contradiction. But surely we need to correct their mistakes. Oh no, we don't. Does it matter if we contradict them when they're wrong? Well, yes, it does. We can't tell which individual memory they're using to try and make sense of their feelings. But it must have come from their memory system. They can't use ours. If they're struggling to make sense of things, constantly being told they're wrong won't help them at all. Arguing facts with someone whose memory isn't storing facts reliably will just cause distress, and confronting them with evidence that proves them wrong can be disastrous. It must be very unnerving when everyone else seems to know more about your life than you do. And there's no point when there's usually something positive we can say instead. Difficult behaviour is often caused by frustration or distress, and that's easily set off by contradicting someone who's struggling to make sense of things. So let's not do that. Dementia is such a strange experience. Those who have it usually know there's something wrong, even if they can't or won't talk about it. Instead, they develop skills in using a memory system with more and more gaps. If we never experience that, we don't get to learn those skills. So we need to listen carefully to what they say, especially to the questions they ask us. They can often reveal vital information that can help us support them. If we let the person with dementia lead the conversation to where they feel most confident, it's surprising what we can learn. Then we can use their own story to promote their well-being. Again, we can show you how. This way, we won't make the person search for facts that may have slipped away, or cause them needless distress. We won't strip away their self-esteem. This works with any memory problems, temporary or permanent. And anyone, family member, friend or professional, can use it in any setting. And the effect on the person will be less stress. They can feel more independent and perhaps stay at home for longer. The move to residential care is often triggered by crisis, and this approach makes crisis less likely. But eventually, it can benefit the person to be around others living with the same condition, with 24-hour care available. That move will be easier for everyone if there's no crisis. Then there'll be less distressed behaviour that so often gets treated with medication, with all its side effects. You've seen all this before. It's that wish list from earlier on. Using this approach really can make the difference. Dementia can involve more problems apart from memory, and there may be other health conditions going on too. But those things become easier to manage once well-being is restored. Things are easier for everyone when the person is in a state of well-being, when they have self-esteem, a feeling of choice and control, they feel confident around us and other people, and they have a sense of hope. So supporting well-being is key to everything else. Family members or one-to-one carers supporting one individual in depth and professionals with a caseload can all use this approach. It works on any level. Those who use it say things have improved for them as well as for those they support. Our little booklet explains all this clearly and simply. We have free courses for family carers and cost-effective training for health and care professionals, with ongoing support available afterwards. Check our website understandingdementia.co.uk. Contact us, join our mailing list, and look out for us on social media at understandingdm.